Brian Shaffer was born on February 25, 1979 in Pickerington, Ohio. He grew up with his mother Renee, his father Randy, and his younger brother Derek. He graduated high school in 1997 and then went on to attend Ohio State University, where he graduated with a degree in microbiology. Brian then continued with his education by attending medical school at Ohio State. He was in his second year when his mother Renee passed away from cancer in early 2006. Classes at Ohio State University had just ended for spring break on Friday, March 31, 2006. Students were out happily celebrating in the many bars and restaurants along High Street in the downtown Columbus area. Brian met his father early that evening for dinner. He shared his plans to celebrate spring break with his friends, and that he was tired from pulling all-nighters from cramming for finals the week before. His father had suggested that Brian not go out with his friends that night because Brian seemed so exhausted. Brian left after dinner with his father at around 9 p.m. and caught up with his friend Clint, otherwise known as William Florence, at the Ugly Tuna Saloona to begin their celebrations. At 10 p.m., Brian called his girlfriend Alexis, who had gone to visit her parents in Toledo. Brian and his girlfriend were due to depart on a flight to Miami for spring break the following Monday. Brian ended the phone call with Alexis, then Brian and Clint continued bar hopping until around midnight when they met up with Clint's friend, Meredith Reed. Meredith then gave them both a ride back to where they began their evening at the Ugly Tuna Saloona. The three of them had a few drinks, and at some point, Brian separated from Clint and Meredith. At around 2 a.m., they went looking for Brian, and even tried to call his cell phone a few times. They waited outside the bar for Brian, but did not see him among the crowd departing the bar. They assumed he had already left and gone home. Brian's father and Alexis attempted to call Brian several times throughout the weekend, but he never answered the phone. On April 3rd, Monday morning, after he missed the flight to Miami, Brian was then reported missing. Police went straight to the Ugly Tuna Saloona where Brian was last seen. The area around this bar was located in the South Campus Gateway, which is a high crime area. The police reviewed video footage from inside the bar, which showed Brian, Clint, and Meredith going up an escalator near the entrance of the bar at around 1:15 a.m. At approximately 1:55 a.m., Brian is seen at the top of the escalator talking with two women. He then walks off camera towards the bar's entrance. The rest of the video footage obtained did not show Brian leaving the bar. This was the last confirmed sighting of Brian Shaffer. Investigators have considered the possibility that he changed his clothes, put on a hat, or maybe hid his face from the camera. It was also possible that he might have left the building through another exit, but the only other exit was a service door that wasn't used by the public. During this time in the spring of 2006, this door opened to a construction site that would have been very difficult to navigate for anyone, let alone Brian, who would have likely been intoxicated at the time. Officers next looked into security footage at nearby bars and businesses to see if they could catch a glimpse of Brian, but there was no trace of him. Investigators used police dogs and searched the surrounding areas as well. Brian's scent was tracked to a nearby Wendy's, where the scent was then lost. Brian's apartment was also searched. His car was still parked outside. Nothing in his apartment had been disturbed and no signs of a struggle were found. His credit cards have never been used, and there has been no activity in his bank account since. Many people were asked to take a lie detector test, including his father. His friend Clint refused to take the test and immediately retained a lawyer. Brian's brother Derek stated, "As soon as the detectives started getting involved is when Clint cut off communication with everyone." Derek also thought that Clint knows something, he just won't come forward with it. Alexis also thinks that Clint is withholding information. Alexis would call his phone every night for almost a year, and it always went straight to voicemail. One night in September of 2006, Brian's phone rang. Police pinged the phone signal to the Hilliard, Ohio area, but the phone's ringing was determined to be a glitch. There have been many theories over the years about what happened to Brian. Some believe he took off on his own because he couldn't deal with his mother's death. Others believe that Brian was the victim of the smiley face killer, a killer who targeted many college-aged men and disposed of them in bodies of water. Brian has now been missing for over 16 years. His father, Randy, passed away in September of 2008. He was outside cleaning up after a storm when suddenly a branch broke off of a tree, striking him fatally. Columbus police have said they still receive a few tips a month through the local Crime Stoppers hotline. Unfortunately, none of these tips have led to any breakthroughs in Brian's case. In March of 2021, the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation released an age progression photo of what Brian might look like at 42 years of age. Brian has the Pearl Jam symbol tattooed on his upper right arm and a small fleck in one of his irises. If you have any information regarding the disappearance of Brian Shaffer, please contact the Crime Stoppers of Central Ohio. They are still offering a reward for any information that can help solve this case.